Alright, so for 11A, because we skipped number 10, determine the outliers in each distribution if there are any. So in order to find this out, what we're going to do is we're going to find the IQR, which is Q3 minus Q1. So for Stony Brook, it is 7.5 minus 3.5, which is equal to 4. So now I'm going to take Q1, which is 3.5, minus 1.5 times the IQR. So I'm going to do Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. And 3.5 minus 1.5 times 4 turns out to be negative 2.5. Now obviously we don't have a number bigger than that, or a number less than that, because the smallest number is 0. And now I'm going to do Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR, which is 7.5 plus 1.5 times 4, which equals 13.5. Which means that since there are no numbers, because 12 is the highest number, that there is no outliers for Stony Brook. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, except we're going to do it for Millbrook. So for Millbrook, I do 10.5 minus 4.5, that's not a 5, which is equal to 6. Now once again I'm going to do Q1, which is 4.5 minus 1.5 times 6, which equals negative 4.5. And then I'm also going to do I'm going to do 10.5 plus 1.5 times 6, which is 19.5, which means that the maximum of 20 is an outlier. For part B, I'm going to draw the distribution. So here's 0, 5, 10, 15, and 20. So the first one for Stony Brook, and I'm going to label it as Stony Brook. My lowest number is 0. Q1 is 3.5. The median is right at 5. Q3 is at 7.5, which is right in between 5 and 10. And my highest number, which was not an outlier, is 12. For Millbrook, my lowest number is 0. My first quartile is 4.5. My median is 8.25. My Q3 is at 10.5. My highest number that is not an outlier is 18. And then I have an outlier at 20. And so that's how my picture goes. And see, I did not want to write down all of these numbers into my thing because I don't even really know all of the numbers. So I used the table. Now for part C, it says write a few sentences comparing them. So first of all, Millbrook has a higher center than Stony Brook. And also Millbrook has a higher range. Millbrook is skewed to the right, while Stony Brook is approximately symmetrical. And so by doing this, I have compared the center, shape, and spread. For problem number 12, go ahead and put those numbers into L1, and after you put them into L1, start the video up again. Once you put them in order, what you want to do is you want to hit the stat button and go down to number 2 and then type in second 1, and that way you can easily see all of the numbers in order. So since the numbers go from 50 to 88, I'm probably going to go from 50 to 60, so we'd have a number 10. So you hit second stat plot, second y equals, and that gets you the stat plot. And I'm going to, they're probably already on from the last one, but this time I'm going to turn on the histogram, and then I'm going to go to my window. So my window, I'm going to go 50 is my x min, 90 is my x max, and maybe there's too much leeway, so maybe I'm going to make 5 my interval instead of 10. So maybe I'm going to go from 50 to 55 for my x interval. Then I'll do like -2 for my y min, just so I have some space, and then I'll do 10 as my y max, interval of 1. And apparently my max has to be bigger than that, so I'm going to make my max equal to 15. Okay, so I've already started making my chart, and so in my graph, when I change this y, after I change the y max to be 15, I'm going to, let me just make that each one of these 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I'm going to hit trace. So what trace is going to do for me is it's going to allow me to just have them count. So the first set had 2, and then the next set had 4, then the next set had 1, and then the next set had 7, and then the next set had 12. Let's see, that's 10, so that's 12 up there. Then the next set had 5, and then 2, and then finally 1. And so there's my histogram. Okay. Now, since this looks approximately symmetrical, and I'm going to say this in part B, that means that I should use the mean and standard deviation. If it's skewed in either direction, then I should use the median and IQR. Okay, in order to find the mean and standard deviation, I'm going to go to stat, calc one variable stat for L1, and the mean was 69.6 and the standard deviation was 8.34. In part D, it asked for the median and the IQR. The median, they said, was 72. The IQR is Q3 minus Q1, which is 74 minus 65, which is 9. Determine if there are any outliers. And we already answered the question about the mean and the standard deviation. So, for letter D, determine any outliers. So, I need to do 74 plus 9 times 1.5. Which gives me 87.5, and so 88 is an outlier. And if I did 65 minus 9 times 1.5, that gives me an answer of 51.5, and the minimum was 53, so there are no outliers for this one, so 88 is the only outlier. And that's it for this video.